Silent Night is the legendary John Woo's first American movie in 20 years, his last being Paycheck, starring Ben Affleck. And this is the gritty revenge tale of a tormented father played by Joel Kinnaman who witnesses his young son die when caught in a gang's crossfire on Christmas Eve. While recovering from a wound that costs him his voice, he makes vengeance his life's mission and embarks on a punishing training regimen in order to avenge his son's death. I first discovered John Woo not through Hard Boiled, not from A Better Tomorrow, but from Broken Arrow, which I still really love. I have always loved Broken Arrow deeply. I think that film is so fun and so entertaining and super underrated.
You don't know what you're doing, do you? This is out of control! I must have... Hush!
Of course, Face Off is an absurd masterpiece in its own right. And even Mission Impossible 2, which is by no means the best Mission Impossible movie, has its share of unique thrills. John Woo is a filmmaker that is not known for subtlety. He loves to hit you in the face as hard as possible with the violence, the editing choices, the music, and the performances. And I can say that there was a real giddiness that kind of rose up in my chest when I saw a John Woo film appear at the beginning of this movie, and I felt kind of privileged to be watching it. It's by no means as good as some of his best films, though, I will say. Silent Night has a lot about it that's a little bit schmaltzy and somewhat cheesy, but honestly, you can say that about pretty much every John Woo movie. It's kind of part of his brand. He finds a way to make things that feel a bit soap opera-esque, blood-soaked operas filled with bullets and fist fights and car chases and a lot of crash zooms. I have to give Joel Kinnaman a lot of credit here because he has a completely silent role. He screams a few times, but even his screams and his grunts are very raspy because he is injured early in the movie and his ability to speak is taken away from him. And so he spends the entire film in a state of not being able to talk, but wanting to kill a lot of people. And he's terrific in the movie without saying anything. He doesn't need the dialogue to communicate the emotions. He's very, very good. And there are some standout action sequences, a car chase in particular being a really great one, and a lot of bullets are fired. It's something you don't see as much anymore, but John Woo likes to spend a lot of clips. He doesn't think too much about the practicality of reload time and recoil and all that kind of stuff that you might have seen in a John Wick production. This movie has people shooting a lot of things, a whole bunch. There's a stairwell sequence that's pretty impressive. It's meant to feel like it's one take, very much so like the Daredevil TV show. And other movies have done the stairwell or the hallway one take. We've seen this before. This one does have a lot of very obvious cuts, though. I can always see what a cut usually occurs, but this one did feel pretty obvious, and it felt like they could have done more in less cuts. And we've seen movies like Silent Night many times before. I think of Kevin Bacon's movie Death Sentence that James Wan made that's really good, and I thought about that movie a lot while watching that. And I actually think Death Sentence is better. Of course, there's a million Charles Bronson movies like this. There's a lot of movies where you cross the wrong person who decides, you know what, I'm going to make you my next target, or someone loses someone close to them and now they're going on a revenge path, or in the case of Taken, someone is kidnapped. This happens a lot. There is nothing unique about this structure whatsoever. The one thing that's unique about it is that he can't talk. What's unfortunate is that that is never used as a hindrance to his mission. It would have been great if there were scenes in which he had to talk, or that the fact that he couldn't talk made it harder for him to do this task of killing all these people. But it didn't, because the silent badass who kills a bunch of people is one of the most common tropes in action movies. I think the tension would have been better if they could have found ways where he really did have to communicate something to somebody, even if it was as simple as he's trying to reach someone who needs help, or that he would love to say something to in the middle of the heat of battle, but they can't hear him because he can't speak, and that ruins everything. They just needed to have a moment where this newfound hindrance to his life created an obstacle for him, but instead it felt more like a stylistic choice that the filmmakers wanted to make, and so they took his voice away. But the thing is, I watch John Woo movies for action, and the action is very, very good. Joel Kinnaman does a lot of it himself. The fights are brutal. There's a lot of blood. As I said, there's an excellent car chase and quite a bit of shootouts. It feels very much like a 1980s movie. All of the villains are just bad guys who just kind of line up to get shot. The only spoken dialogue in the entire film comes from radio transmissions, from lyrics in songs that play, and then there's one part where his wife, I think, says, "It's okay, you'll be okay," a variation of that. And that's about it. I think Silent Night mostly does its job. It's a very fun and violent action movie. John Woo is clearly still very skilled at kinetic action sequences. But I do think that the idea of our hero not talking at all has taken away some of the impact that could have happened. But still, I celebrate the fact that I got to see a new John Woo movie in theaters tonight, and I hope that he continues to make more films here. I'll watch anything he makes anywhere, but still, it felt very special. So if you guys do end up seeing Silent Night, let me know what you thought of it down below. And as always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.